The book, My Mother, My Madness, is a memoir by publisher and writer Colleen Higgs that gives us an insight into her secret diary entries she wrote for more than a decade about her mother's last years. The offering shines the spotlight on mental illness, and Colleen touches on her mother's bipolar, depression, failed suicide attempts, and how this strenuous time impacted the relationship she and her siblings had with their parent. But to take us through her personal journals of having to take care of her mother that was never emotionally there for her and is incapable of taking care of her and her siblings, Colleen is joining us now on Skype. Colleen, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Talk to us about what propelled you to compile the diary entries that you share in this book and why you titled My Mother, My Madness.
I did the book as a blog, and it was a way of coping with dealing with my mother. I had to look after her and I had to take care of her, and it was hard for me. So I wrote these blog entries. It was a secret blog as a way of processing and dealing with what was going on. I called it My Mother, My Madness because I have had my own mental health issues, partly because of having a mother like that, but maybe it's genetic. But I have tried to take it on and to find help and healing.
Okay. And the book starts in September 2009. Do take us back to prior to that period. What was your relationship with your mother like?
Well, I mean, as a child and a young person, it was okay. It was good at times. You know, mental health isn't one thing. There are different aspects to it. Sorry, there's an echo for me, and I'm being distracted by hearing my own voice. Yeah, I mean, as a child and a young person, one doesn't know what a mother should be like. You just have your mother and you do your best to cope with that situation. And, you know, I mean, we got on quite well. But then as an adult, I started to understand more about, you know, that not all mothers were like that and that she had been quite a distressed person. I mean, as I mentioned in the book, she was given away by her mother and father to her aunt and uncle who didn't have children, and was raised by them from the age of 7. And this was a very life-changing and upsetting thing that happened to her, devastating. And yeah, I don't think she ever got over it, because also no one explained to her what was going on, and she never had any dealings with them again until she was in her late 30s.
That's quite a profound story to tell. Now, Colleen, let's talk about the responsibility bestowed on you to take care of your mother and the decision that led you to take her to this particular luxury retirement village.
Well, my father left money to my mother, and we decided to use that to, you know, to put her in a place where she would be cared for. You know, people have asked me why I couldn't care for her myself in my own home. And, you know, my own mental health, I knew that I wouldn't manage that. So, you know, we did research, and in fact, my younger sister found Oasis, and that, you know, it was a lovely place. She had a beautiful view of Table Mountain and qualified staff, and people really looked after her, and she was well contained, and it just seemed comfortable and like a nice place to live. Not that my mother saw it like that initially.
And prior to passing, you detailed some of her erratic behaviors that she did, such as excessive smoking, that even led to her setting her apartment on fire. Talk to us through some of them and what really went through your mind.
Yeah, look, it's difficult to sort of parent one's own parent, because you know, it's a role reversal and it's not an easy one to take on. So yeah, with the setting fire to her apartment, I mean, it was carelessness. She smoked in her apartment until that point, and she emptied the ashtray into a bin, and then she so the sort of stompies smoldered, and eventually it set the apartment alight. Luckily, it was contained before anything too serious happened, although her apartment was damaged and some of her furniture was damaged, and those things had to be replaced. But, she was a handful and difficult, and I think that the staff showed incredible patience and kindness dealing with somebody who was quite difficult, very difficult. So, and, I would be consulted about that and how to manage her. Yeah.
We don't have much time, unfortunately, but let's briefly talk about Mojaji Books that you founded in 2007. I mean, one of the publishers that give women writers and storytellers a platform to shine. Do tell us more about how that journey has been like.
Well, it was happening at the same time as taking care of my mother that I was starting Mojaji Books. So I had two big challenges. I decided that it was important to do what I've done, to make a place for Southern African women writers. And, what's been very exciting for me has been to see that it's taken off. And then, the other small publishers and even the larger publishers are making, are publishing the kinds of things that I wanted to see published. So almost in a sense, I don't need to do the work that I chose to do anymore. But at the time, in 2007, it seemed very important. And I've also published a lot of things that, aren't necessarily the kind of things that mainstream publishers would think would be, things they could take a risk on, like publishing Malika and Lovu's book about stillbirth. But I think 10 years later, one might see people, publishers taking those things on. The issues have become more acceptable in a sense. And, women's issues are much more in our face and even, spoken about. I mean, gender-based violence, the president spoke about it recently in one of his evening covered chats, as it were. Okay. So, it just feels like things have shifted. So that's very exciting.
All right, Colleen, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We certainly hope that with this book you are able to heal. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.